better roll them dice. You never know if it could change your life. Take a chance, you need the wrong or right.
Hello from week 2 of social isolation, trapped in our...
We're completely online now.
Yeah, we're beings of energy and light. I no longer have a physical form. I exist entirely online. I am coursing through the veins of the internet, free and clear, like Johnny Mnemonic, Keanu Reeves. Yeah.
I mean, everyone laughed at me for reading so much cyborg feminist
right.
theory, but who's laughing now?
That's right. Donna Haraway is our
cyborg.
queen now. We are all cyborgs. Each of us exists in reality only so much as we are able to plug in. Hello, everyone.
We're all cyborgs here.
This is Dungeon Master of None. I'm Dungeon Master Rob.
Come play with us online. I'm Dungeon Master Matt.
And today we got a bonus-ish episode. We're going to be answering our...
We're just trying to keep you pigs entertained
That's right.
and happy.
Are you not entertained?
troughs,
Are you not entertained? I hope you're entertained. That's our goal. We're here to
We
entertain
hope an extra episode helps everyone pass the time.
Yes.
Be a little less mad and crazy.
Be patient with each other, for everyone you know is fighting a great battle. Normally that's true, but that's especially true right now. We're all fighting a great battle against one spiky boy. One little spiky boy.
We all have 2 wolves inside us, fighting every day. Which one wins? The one we quarantine.
That's right. Whichever wolf self-isolates the best is the one that wins. So we'll be answering some mail and talking about other things. But
How's your online games these days?
So as
we're all online.
We're all online now. As most of you know, I'm running 1.5 in-person games, and I transitioned both to fully online. And you know what? The transition has been pretty seamless. I'm an old hand with Roll20, so it wasn't too hard for me to get things figured out. I have not been able to get the things that I really wanted to get figured out, the dynamic lighting and, advanced fog of war and all the cool features to work consistently. Roll20 still doesn't, I don't know, it has the features, but I haven't figured out how to make them work with...
I think I've done okay.
You have.
My dynamic lighting has been dynamic.
Yeah, I just, for whatever reason, I don't know, switching the tokens, getting everybody's light set up, it's just, it's finicky, but... In general, the games have gone really well. I have run, I think, 3 sessions now online, and everybody's adapting pretty well. Connectivity is an issue. Everyone is on the internet. The pipes, the series of tubes are too full of people's information, so it's been a little bit tricky to get everyone to stay connected. But all in all,
You've got to really, watch the monitors. I don't know, what your setup looks like when you're playing online, but I think this is, kind of important for a DM.
Yeah, you really do. I mean, I think it's important to be able to see everyone's faces. It's not critical, but I think that it, especially now that we're all self-isolating and don't see anybody, it's especially important to have that video connection.
Because I think I was tempted when I first started using Roll20 a long time ago to just have the, battle map and chat up, but as I've done it more and more, it's I want the thing I want to look at is everyone's face, and have the battle map or the roller just really off to one side, because the faces are the important part.
And I'm reluctant to endorse any product or service over another, especially for free. Pay me, Zoom. But Zoom has worked really well in terms of video conferencing, because you can minimize the video screen, but still have everybody's face in sort of a smaller window, so you can be looking at both the map and everyone's face at the same time. Better than any other service. Roll20 theoretically allows this, but the actual connection in the Roll20 app is so garbage. Sorry, Roll20, that I've never been able to get it to work with more than 3 people.
I don't want to I think it's not Roll20's fault that they can't make an online tabletop and a video chat service, which the biggest corporations in America have continually failed to make.
Google has failed to do this at least a dozen times. Skype, Hangouts, chats. Google has bought and bought and tried to do video chat about a dozen times and failed. Discord's pretty good. It gets a little unwieldy with too many people, but it works pretty well. But, if you're in a modern, civilized country, you may actually have better internet service and functionality than we do in the United States, so that might not be a problem for you. But so far so good. My players are enjoying it. Everybody is very, very cooperative and grateful because they're all going stir crazy, and so they're very happy to have something to do and some social interaction.
I'm playing more like role-playing games than ever before.
Yeah,
I had to leave one of my games. I'm like, listen, other people need me to run this. You guys don't need another player. I'm sorry, but
yeah, I've been having to turn down both games to play and to run. I mean, I would love to play and have more games, but
cat on the back,
babe. Ouch. I would love to play more games, but I still have a job. For now, thank goodness, and I don't have as much time as I would like, but it's great. I mean, that was a golden time for online gaming of all kinds. You laughed at us. They laughed at us all our lives. Well, yep. Indoor kids rule now.
Yeah,
this is our world.
I mean, I'm thankful for Senator Bernie Sanders for filibustering the stimulus bill. I want to make sure that every American gets a Logitech webcam.
That's right.
And their own microphone.
That's
and
right.
Dedicated service to Twitch Prime.
That's right.
Thank you, Bernie.
We
love you.
A webcam in every home, a 1 gig connection in every port. That's the American promise. Thank you, President Bernie Sanders. So it's going pretty well. Honestly, in all seriousness, it is really great that we have this technology and this availability. It is a nice touchstone for me and for all of my friends to be able to hop on and play these games still when everything else is so uncertain. So,
do you want to chat a little bit about what's been actually going on in those games?
Yeah, I mean,
it's some fun things.
It's I haven't done an update in a while. So my my Waterdeep group has been stuck in Undermountain for a long time. They are very good at some things. They are not great at dungeon crawling. And so they keep let's see, how do I want to put this? They just get stuck.
Here's the thing about playing online is I think it's actually, unless you put in the 10 hours to create a dungeon with the correct fog of war, dynamic lighting or whatever, playing a game that does not need a battle mat is I think way better online.
Yeah, and as a consequence of that, I encouraged them in a lot of ways to get out of Undermountain. So they've arrived in Skullport and they found the ship that the Castellanters were using. And again, if you are in my group, stop listening now. But they finally reached that. I committed the cardinal sin of DMing. I gave them a boat. Rather, I put a boat in the game, and then they killed everybody on it, and so that is now their boat. So we've literally entered uncharted territory.
Look at me. Look at my eyes. I'm the boat now.
I'm the boat now. So, honestly, now's a good time. I may, I've told you and listeners that, I'm trying to push them towards Descent to Avernus, but they have been not biting on a lot of the hooks. So that's still probably going to happen, but, this may end up being sort of a Ghosts of Saltmarsh, Descent to Avernus, Waterdeep hybrid campaign, which fortunately I now have a lot of time to work on. So that's good. And I finally got my Pathfinder 2e game off the ground. I mean, a couple weeks ago, and then I moved it online. And it's going great. It's a lot of fun. I'm a big fan of the system, to be honest. I think that it's, we were uncertain about it when we reviewed it, but it's honestly kind of coming together pretty well. The exploration mode is still kind of fiddly, but everything else in Pathfinder works really well, and the combat is really fun and actually pretty quick.
How fast is it?
It's pretty quick.
That was our question.
It's pretty quick. There's still more attacks than you get in 5th edition, but not so many to bog the game down, and the math is very simple. Every additional attack you take is -5 or -4 if you're using an agile weapon. That's very simple, and you can attack 2, maybe 3 times if you don't move. Everybody has everything sort of fits together really well. There are definitely some like fiddly corner case rules based on those indicators and those what am I looking for? The words, keywords. And if you're not careful, you can make some mistakes. But generally, even though we've all only been running this for less than a month, it's going pretty well. I'm a big fan. It's definitely, advanced. It's definitely for experienced role players, but it's not as complicated as running OG Pathfinder. So I'm a big fan. And I've got to do a bunch of weird homebrew stuff with that, and trying to stick to my own world and format, and that's been a lot of fun. So living through the end times, but excited to be running some games. Matt, you also started an online game, which has been a ton of fun.
I've been continuing to run one of my online games, and I started a whole brand new one, and I tried to put my dice where my mouth was and play a Magic the Gathering game with planeswalkers. And I don't know, you've been playing in it. I think it's been fun so far. You made it to about half of it.
It's been a ton of fun, the ones I've been able to make too. The combat is quick, the balance is good, the story is fun. It's a little because of our group, there are some unexpected but exciting fun parts. We are very good about some things and not great about others, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun, and it's worked really well on Roll20. Yeah,
I've embraced the wackiness. Like the next session, the players are fighting at the top of a giant spire. The planeswalker Dovin Bond, who is a systems mage, and he has a fleet of tiny mechanical thopters surrounding him that will do some weird things. And, there's been some great chances for, evil planeswalker monologues about their plans for controlling the universe. The last session, fight with big bad guy. Also, I just invented a sentient species. Do you really want to kill me kind of things?
Yeah.
And so the players are trying to make those big decisions for the multiverse.
Yeah, it's been fun. So yeah, I mean, it's a good time if you've got the tools and you've got the time. There's never been a better moment for experimentation, as we are all hunkered down waiting for the first global pandemic in 100 years to run its course. So, I guess look on the bright side of things.
Yeah. AIDS crisis in the 80s.
Oh, sorry.
90s.
Yeah, I apologize. That's
you should apologize.
Extremely good point. Also, it depends on how we define global pandemic, because several others were big and didn't touch the U.S. So anyway, Strike that.
All right, so let's do some letters.
Letters, all right.
Down my man in that connection. I'm down, I'm down. My man in that connection. I'm down, I'm down. My man in that connection. I'm down. Crashed again last night.
Matt, you want to start us off?
Sure. Here's our first letter of the episode, and it's a good one. Hey, longtime fan of the show, and I enjoyed your review of Explorer's Guide to Wildmont. I was hoping you would have spent some time discussing the Heroic Chronicle feature of that book. Do you think it's a good resource for a Session Zero or something like that? Interested in hearing your thoughts at No More Hot Takes.
So I did look at the Heroic Chronicle, and I'm sorry we didn't discuss this in the episode. Matt, maybe you can correct me, but this didn't look terribly different from some of the character creation options that were available in Xanathar's or in previous books. Like, they had all of these tables.
Maybe it doesn't stand out as much to us because it's like build a life or career path set of tables, which, I don't know, dozens, if not 100 different RPG settings and systems have something similar to this.
I mean, Burning Wheel has far and away the best and most robust system for this if you're trying to generate a life path. So I'm sorry for overlooking it because it is good. It is, for 5th edition, definitely a really solid way to build a character. I don't like to use these because I usually have a pretty solid idea coming in, but as far as they go, I think this also does a really good job of walking you through everything that you should know for your character, before you step foot in the world of Wildmount. So Wildmount, sorry, I'm never going to be able to say it right.
I mean, if you want a character who has a pretty expansive backstory of they've already been through a bunch of twists and turns, I mean, this is absolutely fine for fleshing that out. Like, I mean, it's really like, do you want a character who's kind of like the Critical Role style character that's gonna have some big reveal moments through the campaign and maybe change their outlook on life? That's really good. I especially like the goals section, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's helpful for new players to get started with, oh, here's a table of what I want my character's goals to be. I mean, you can think of this as the traits, bonds, flaws expanded way, way beyond that.
This is the thing that Mercer does really well is allowing his players to build their characters over time. And both the goals and the prophecy section of the Heroic Chronicle encourage this. So I would definitely borrow from that. It's just not entirely a unique setting or idea or system or idea. I do like this one, and I think it plays into one of Mercer's strengths, which is giving your players the chance to have those exciting growth moments, which also ties into some of his other systems like the weapons, the vestments that grow over time. So I would encourage you to draw from that if you're going to draw something at all from the Heroic Chronicle.
I mean, here's the other side of the coin, if you will. You don't have to do this. Another way. Here's what I'm saying. Here's the flaw with this system, is that you can create character goals or unique things about your character that feel really special for you, but unless you work really hard with your DM or your DM works really hard with you, it might be hard for other players in the game to really buy in or get what's going on with your character.
Yeah,
and you multiply this times 5 characters, and ooh boy, that's a lot of work.
Well, and this is something that I think that Critical Role obscures because Mercer is such a good DM at this particular thing, and because he's got so much synergy and chemistry with his group, is that he can do this. But it takes work, and it takes time, and it takes effort, and you have to really know and have buy-in from your players. Otherwise, it can just be kind of it can just end up being falling entirely on the DM shoulders and not really translate well to the group as a whole.
Some of these things are so great and so wonderfully written, you could create a character out of the whole thing. Like, for example, Mysterious Secrets, number 20. It says, I once caught a falling star. It looked up from my hands and smiled, and then told me to look for it on the day which fire erupts from the earth. That's super fun.
Yeah.
However, the other way you can use some of these ideas or hooks is have them actually happen during play, which gives a chance for everyone to be invested in it. Yeah.
Yeah. I would definitely borrow from this section, but I also wouldn't just use it in full. It is a good guideline, though, for thinking about if you're especially committed to Wildmount as a setting, what you should know about as a player or as a DM. Yeah.
Your favorite food, for example.
Okay. Thank you so much. At No More Hot Takes. Our next letter comes from Matt, who writes, Hey, Matt and Rob. I totally loved the Dark Sun episode. I've never played, but loved the art and have wondered about the setting from time to time. I had read a little, but somehow missed that John Carter had inspired that setting so much. I'm going to try to read some. My recommendation, only read a little. It doesn't hold up all that great. So cool.
Yeah, it's kind of boring.
It was written it was written before World War I. I mean, it's
it's over 120 years old.
Yeah,
almost.
I mean, it's not bad for its time, but it is of its time. Of course,
the author of Tarzan too. So remember that when you're thinking about its views on gender, race.
Again, it's not the worst for the time period. Honestly,
the hero is a Confederate officer.
He is a Confederate officer. It's still better than Lovecraft in a lot of ways, but also not great. Anyway, of course, Mad Max-ish and maybe slightly Beastmaster. A great observation. I forgot Beastmaster. Beastmaster is definitely a Dark Sun type show. I found the 4E Dark Sun rules online, and someone's homebrewed 5E. I found the 5E homebrew for Dark Sun is also what I found, and maybe we can link it, but it's pretty good. And those two little cartoony mugs of yours peering out at me as I drive has grown on me. I'm glad. There are some differing opinions, which we'll read later. Also, is there a podcast on Roll20 and gaming over the internet in the works? So we did one before, and we mentioned it on the last episode, and we'll mention it again in the show notes, but I think it's probably time for us to do another full episode on online gaming to re-up. So, yes. More alternatives. Actually, that's a good point. We should definitely dig into some of the other alternatives, Matt, and discuss them, because now more than ever, there's options out there. I hope you are safe and can both work from home. Ditto to your loved ones. So far, yes, thank you. We're both safe, quarantined, healthy, and for now, working. So,
yeah. I mean, we just discussed, a lot of playing online, but I think the main thing to take away, if you're like waiting for us to do another playing online episode, is that Roll20, the free version is, I think, more than you need for a simple game. And if you're worried about playing online, I would say just try using Zoom, Skype, or Discord, all of which have little add-ons you can have for a dice roller, and try playing just with that, right?
Yeah.
I think that's the best way to start, honestly.
Yeah, do a full theater of the mind session, see how that goes, and then if you're comfortable, add Roll20 or another tabletop program for a map and things.
Because if you have players who have played a role-playing game before, the problem with Roll20 is we all know how technically incompetent everyone is there's going to be a million hang-ups.
Yeah.
And you're going to spend most of the game explaining how Roll20 works. Whereas if you just have, okay, here's video chat, and honestly, if someone can't figure out how to roll a dice, you can just roll it for them. They can, add their own bonuses, stuff like that. And yeah, there you go. Otherwise, you might not hook your players into playing an online game, right? That should be your biggest worry for the first session. Make sure this is still fun for everyone.
Yeah. I the first 30 minutes of every game I've played since the lockdown began have been devoted to technical issues, which is honestly a minor miracle and not that bad, but it does eat into time, and I've been lucky that there haven't been any major crises. Everybody's been able to make it work, but just be aware.
All right, thanks for the letter, Matt. Here's our next one. Hey guys, love the show. I just wanted to say how much I appreciated your show this week. With everyone's routines messed up, with the world going crazy, I really value how this one was the same business as usual. Provide a lot of comfort and normalcy when that is in short supply. Thanks, Mitchell from Michigan.
Mitchell, I want you to know, everybody is saying we are the most normal ones online. Matt and I are extremely normal and will remain so throughout the duration of this emergency. So I'm glad you appreciate it.
Yeah. Now I want to make a Powered by the Apocalypse game where one of your stats is... Your stats are normal, online, sharp, routine, and comfort.
Yeah. Yeah. Normie, 2 online, yeah.
Yeah, we've got a +2 to our normal stat. That's pretty good.
Pretty good.
I'm so confused. Am I a normal person? I can't tell if I'm a normal person. It's true. I think I'm cool enough, but am I cruel enough? Am I cruel enough for you?
All right, our next one comes from @DeadSeaScone, which is a really great handle. So,
I mean, it was great until the Hobby Lobby CEO bought a bunch of fake Dead Sea scones.
Dead Sea Scone writes, regarding your take on James Bond, where M16 is the bad guy, do some research on Robert Maxwell. who was linked to M16 and Mossad. He fell off his yacht, curiously, and is also the father of Ghislaine Maxwell, the madam of one Jeffrey Epstein. We've not gone very far into Epstein brain on this podcast, but don't worry, we've got that Epstein brain. Yeah, so dude, look into that Robert Maxwell. I'm gonna look into this for sure.
He did have his own island, like a James Bond.
He did have his own island, which possibly has secret tunnels underneath it. Hard to know.
Listeners, someone out there has to have used the map of Jeffrey Epstein's island as a thing for their Shadowrun or D&D campaign. So please let us know if you've done that.
A Shadowrun campaign that ends up on Little St. James for a final confrontation with Cyber Epstein is inevitable if it hasn't happened already.
He did try and freeze his head. I don't know. This is sad. Obviously, this is like a person who is a giant monster.
Yeah,
maybe we shouldn't be making.
I don't want to make jokes.
Anyway, whatever.
It's just
We're all
really,
going
really
crazy.
hard to not like go insane thinking about Epstein. So I apologize if it seems like we're making light, but I don't know how else to deal with the fact that all of this shit happened. Anyway, sorry. Dead Sea Scone also writes, got back on Twitter to compliment you on your recent episodes. Thank you. Witcher got me to give that show a chance. It gets better after the first extra boring, mediocre episode of the season. True, absolutely. Again, if you haven't tried it yet, give The Witcher a chance. Definitely get through at least the first 3 before you bow out. Here's where Dead Sea Scone delivers us a hot take. In the interest of fairness and good taste,
more hot takes.
The new podcast picture looks absolutely terrible. You two look like a nightmare 2D version of the Johnny Yes Papa meme. No,
telling lies?
No offense to the artist. I'm sure she works very hard. She's right here, by the way, because we're stuck inside. So he says being an artist is hard as shit. She's giving me the middle finger. Anyway, the picture looks stupid, but great job, guys. Keep up the good work. I know a lot of folks out there are rooting for you and listening to this stuff. Definitely brightens up my week. Dead Sea Scone.
We love the picture.
We love the picture. We're not changing it.
But that's okay. You don't have to like it.
I apologize if you don't like it. We love it, and we're not changing it. So, if you're not a fan, my apology, but I don't care. I'm gonna keep
We're
using
actually
it.
hard at work transitioning this to a video podcast where, like, each of those little cartoon figures slowly opens and closes their mouths while we talk.
Yeah.
So you can just look at that.
So thanks, Dead Sea Scone. Appreciate all your feedback. Always be honest with us. We love it, especially if you have something to say about us.
Please don't. I'm offended. I would love to see Dead Sea Scone's take on what your new logo should be.
She wants to know if Dead Sea Scone can do better, so...
Yeah, let's see. Let's why don't you come down here and do our artist's job here. Here's our next letter. Hey, just heard one of your old episodes, and I agree. Warlord is definitely a placeholder name. Just spitballing here, what about Legionnaire from @Triptician1?
Like we discussed, again... It's fine. Legionnaire, Myrmidon, I don't know, Phalanx. I mean, there's all sorts of good words, but none of them really, none of them quite work as well. They don't describe the function and the purpose of the class as well as, say, fighter or cleric or wizard do. And that's the problem.
There are some classes in D&D. I can think of maybe, for example, Artificer or Druid, where I feel like if I have one of those characters, they know that that is the class they belong to, and they may even describe themselves as members of that class in character in the world. But of course, there are other classes, like Rogue especially, maybe even like Wizard or Cleric, where I don't think my characters who are that class would ever use that word to describe themselves.
This is the problem with a class-based system, right? I know that non-class-based systems have never really caught on, and that I think people really need the structure of you're a X to fit in, but there is something to be said for a system like GURPS or Shadowrun or whatever, where you pick from a set of abilities or from a selection of feats or whatever to build your character, rather than starting with a class package.
Like, if I have a rogue, I'm never going to tell an NPC who's hiring me for a job, oh yeah, I'm a rogue, right? The character might use, I'm a thief, an assassin, a spy. I'll swindle the person for you, but never rogue.
When I play a fighter, I'm never going to call myself a fighter. I'm a soldier, I'm a warrior, a mercenary, a brawler.
A space cowboy, a gangster of love,
Some people, Matt,
etc.
They call me Maurice, but none of them call me a fighter. But yeah, no, look, we went through the whole thing. We're happy with the result, but have not come up with a name that really, really gets there. So, yeah. I
mean, we ended up on Paragon,
which is okay. I'm
actually I like Switch every day, right? Yeah. I'm very fluid on this, but it's like maybe Warlord would just be better just because it lets other people know what we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. Because people who know D&D are like, oh yeah, the Warlord from 4E. Yeah, okay. Even though it's the worst name.
It's terrible, but it's, it's better than nothing. And it communicates to people what we're trying to accomplish, which is...
Maybe we should add something there to be like, think of what's the best name to fit this class into your world. If you had a very ancient Rome inspired game, then Legionnaire, as our writer suggests, would be perfect. But obviously not for my game.
All right, thank you at Triptician1.
I'm a legionnaire, camel in disrepair, hoping for a Frigidaire to come passing by. I am on reprieve, lacking my joie de vivre, missing my gapery.
Our next one is from at Coogs. At Coogs writes, hi Matt and Rob, absolutely love the podcast and found it searching for podcasts with DM tips on Spotify. As a D&D player who came of gaming age in the late 90s and into the W years, to hear an explicitly leftist D&D podcast warms my little nerd commie heart. You are precisely our audience, so I'm glad you found us, Coogs. Please keep up the good work. It is wonderful to hear historians and fantasy fans discuss the sociological and historical implications of modern fantasy gaming. Ludology and philosophy vis-a-vis games of all kinds is my fucking jams. This is the podcast I wish I made. Thank you. We haven't talked about...
So, I mean, we showed everyone we know nothing about philosophy as we both were like, dunamis? What is this word? This sounds made up.
Was there a thing that...
Yeah, dunamis is like an I looked it up after we recorded. It's an Aristotelian term for things.
Well, more the fool us. I have not read my Aristotle since college. So, yeah, we're smart. I would love to do like a ludology pod at some point, but also that's...
Dude, I don't even know what ludology is.
The philosophy of games, Matt. The theory of play. I read a book about this in college. Anyway, last year on a lark...
Sorry, I was doing math. I was studying the number lines in economics.
While you were playing games, I was studying the line. While you were reading ludology texts, I charted the numbers, and now you have the audacity to come to me for help? Anyway, last year at a lark, a few of my friends, back to Cougs, decided they wanted to try out D&D, and I agreed to DM for them, and they got really excited about their characters, and with me not thinking it would go terribly far, we made some character hooks and played a first session intended to be a one-shot. They loved it, and we continued playing with the same characters and the same hooks. While we struggle to play regularly, new boards have needs, as it turns out, we do have a lot of fun when we do play. They're extremely chatty, so we don't really get a lot done in a session, but again, we're having fun. My problem is this: in this first session, I tried to be yes and style DM, so there are very big story promises that seem to be so complex with so many leads that I feel like I've overpromised a lot. I basically went Squaresoft JRPG on them, and they did all kinds of crazy stuff. My players are only second level, yes, after a year of play, and we've got all of these big plot hooks. Campaign has become so big and we meet so infrequently that I feel like we can't have a satisfying, coherent MacGuffin. Do you have any advice for A, reducing the complexity of an already complex adventure path mid-arc? B, knocking down the stakes of a campaign a few pegs? For example, do you have a good way to go from we must save the world to let's just rescue the princess or find the sword? Solidarity and nat 20s. Matt or at Cougs.
Okay. Wow, this is a, well, first, congratulations on the game.
Yeah, so this sounds a lot like what has happened or what did happen in one of my games. So I do have some insight here, but Matt, I'm interested in your take on this.
Yeah, sure. I think the first thing to do is level up your characters.
Yeah,
Even if you've only had a couple sessions,
give them a free level or
give them second level spells, right? If they've been with these characters for this long, level up your characters.
Be generous with experience at least until level 3.
I would say here's one way you can try and decomplexify, or like, okay, if you're like, we need to actually get something done, do a little pre-work for your game sessions.
Mm-hmm.
Be like, all right, here's the situation. Your characters begin, instead of showing up and being like, all right, what do we want to do? And then you being yes and, which can be great for what you've done, creating plot hooks. It's not great for resolving them.
Yeah.
Say, all right, your characters arrive in the temple of your characters arrive at the wizard college, and you are searching for the lost time stone that will detangle reality, which is your goal. And say, during this session, we are going to come to some kind of conclusion to this, right? And be ready to move them to the end at the end of that session, so you can actually accomplish one thing per session.
I agree with this, and I am very resistant to railroading, and I like to give my players options, but I also have very chatty groups that love to bite on but not pursue any of the hooks I drop. And so what I found is that you kind of just need to put them on some rails, give them a timeline, or kidnap a beloved NPC, or, add a very direct threat so that they have something to focus on. And you can give them ways to sort of pick and choose and not just throw them at one thing or put them on like a real hardcore path, quantum ogre them. But, if your players are struggling to focus, you might have to do it for them. And that's okay. Just say, this is the most important thing. You have to deal with it.
Right. And the key to this, in my experience, is the pre-work, right?
Yeah.
You've got a list probably in your notes or in a document of these are the plot hooks you're dealing with. Just go ahead and tell them, or you could have an email being like, all right, before our next session, which, we always have trouble scheduling, but that's okay. We're going to try our best. What is the plot hook that you want to take care of? Or you can just say, this is what we're going to start with next time. You start here, and we're going to deal with this plot hook and have some sort of final encounter in your mind. And at the end of the 3 or 4 hours, however long your session asks, make sure during that last hour of play, you move them to that final resolution. And then you'll wrap up some of the, too many plot hooks that you have. And then you can go back to that yes and crazy stuff if you want, and expand the world again.
And a great way to focus your players' attention organically is to throw in a focused, competent, and highly active villain. Somebody who is actively messing with their plans and demands their attention. This is a great way to make them, they are still in control of their own destinies, but they will motivate them to do a singular thing, and you can sort of put the campaign back on rails.
Yeah. I think this is a longer episode, but it makes me think about, if you had to, in sort of the Kurt Vonnegut way, instead of charting the tension of a novel, to chart the complexity of a campaign over time. I think we all want start off simple, things get more complex, and then there's a part of the campaign where the plot threads are cut away and we move down to fixing them all or stuff. Because if a campaign just gets more and more complex over time, it will get infinitely complex, and there's so many things to deal with, everyone's paralyzed. So there should be a simple, complex, simple maybe arc to things. I don't know, I have to think more about
We'll chart that out. But yeah, I agree with you, Matt. I think, it's got to be able to shift from simple to complex easily.
Thanks for listening to the show, and thanks for the great letter. Here's...
One sec, Matt.
Oh, I was going to say, you should tell Alex I've taken the little head of myself and I've put it at the top of all of my PowerPoints, tests, exams, student handouts, and paper assignments.
He loves it. His students love it.
My students love it. Some of my students tell me, they're like, well, I like the art, but like sometimes I feel like you're watching me as I'm doing this. Sometimes I'm like, good, that's what I wanted.
All right, back on track.
Hi, Matt and Rob. Like you both, I am so attracted and drawn to Planescape campaigns. The multiverse is so fun, big, and exciting. Why would anyone want to just stay in one plane? Yet, I struggle with how to create a plane jumping campaign that still tells a satisfying and a cohesive story. I've never actually played a true Planescape campaign, so I don't have exemplars for how this should be handled. I think it would be fun and interesting to explore different aspects of the multiverse, but how can I tie all those pieces together to tell a cohesive story? How do you make the PC's home plane still matter and make them still want to explore it if they can literally go anywhere? In my current Planescape campaign I am working on creating takes place in a demi-plane created by the gods. This demi-plane is home to the Tree of Life. The Tree of Life is dying, which is triggering an unraveling of the multiverse. The PCs jump from plane to plane through the Tree of Life in search of its memories that are scattered across the planes in the forms of crystals. I was thinking the plane shifts would span both time and space and allow the PCs to visit key moments in the plane's history. Keep rolling them dice, Jin.
This is a great question, and Matt, I think we have a lesson from your current campaign about this.
Yeah.
So
I think we do.
Our group has definitely got off the rails a bit, but I like I just suggested in our last letter, having a compelling and also threatening villain to pursue or deal with really tends to focus things. It gives you a direction, right? And there are other ways, I think, you can add a series of MacGuffins to collect or whatever, but a good thing if you want them to travel the planes, but also not travel infinitely among the planes.
What faction, force, or person is killing the Tree of Life?
Yeah, exactly.
Answer that question and you will have the direction your players need.
And this can still result in a broad, a plane hopping campaign, but we'll put a little bit of, some boundaries on it so they're not just wandering aimlessly through an infinite multiverse.
There are a couple other interesting points that Jin raises, and I love this idea for a campaign and would love to play in it. One of the questions she asks is, how do I make their home play matter when they can go anywhere and the multiverse is so fast? Well, the second edition Planescape book has an answer to this question. And the question is, the player's home does not matter. And no one gives a shit about them. So, you can embrace that, right?
You can embrace that, or you can give them NPCs that they like, and that makes their home plane matter, Or you can do something wacky, like if their home plane dies, then they die. That's a more mechanistic way to make them care. But if you want to make them attached to their home, give them reasons to, in the form of people or places that they have some attachment to.
Or abandon it, as any blood worth his salt in Sigil would tell you. Yeah. Right? Is that guess what? You're not special and your home plane doesn't matter. The multiverse is a series of infinities that are vaster than you can ever imagine. You might as well do something else with your time now that you've discovered this fact.
Yeah.
One caution I always have for DMs is that traveling through time can often lead to headaches.
Yeah.
Just be careful.
Careful with time travel. I always am tempted to include it, but it can be hard to keep track of what's supposed to be happening when you introduce it, and you definitely want to keep it limited or risk messing everything up.
Let's make some music, make some money, find some models for wives. I'll move to Paris, shoot some.
Rob, I don't know how you're doing on time. We're getting close to the 50-minute mark.
I can read a few more. Yeah. All right, our next one comes from Logan. Logan writes, Greetings, Dungeon Master Hotline crew. Love your content and advice. You're by far my favorite D&D podcast.
Aww.
Thank you. I'm sorry to say that I'm running into a bit of a problem with one of my players. She isn't really engaging with the group at all. At some point, she's even on her phone with earbuds in, or is in another room talking to our friend's wife. We play at their house. I've tried talking to her one-on-one about it and asking what I could do better to keep her interest piqued. And she says that she's just tired from work. We usually play very shortly after she gets off, and sometimes she just doesn't have the best attention span, which is all very reasonable. I know she likes D&D and wants to be there and spend time with everybody, but I was wondering if you had any tips for creating a more stress-relieving environment, because I'm afraid I'm afraid if I bring it up again, I may be sleeping on the sofa, because, plot twist, oh right, she's also my fiancé.
Plot twist.
Thanks in advance. I know it's a tricky question to answer, but I just want her to have a good time with the friends we both love, and as a DM, I feel like it's my responsibility to create an environment where everybody can be engaged and less stressed. Logan.
Okay, excellent. This is our first partner question of the podcast, and I'm just so excited to answer this.
So excited. Thank you, Logan, for writing in.
And let's preface our comments, Rob, with, as always, advice can be a dangerous gift to give, Frodo Baggins.
Sure can. So, Matt, before we begin, what's your experience with running a game that involves a partner or girlfriend/wife?
In the past, right, and in the present, some have really liked playing role-playing games. Others, not their cup of tea. And you just, that's fine.
Same here. So we've both done this a little bit. So this is a delicate situation, Logan. So yeah, what advice do we want to give here, Matt?
Yeah, I would just say listen, your partner, right, has told you, I think pretty much all you need to know is that, for your partner, and this is true for many of the people we play role-playing games with, the game itself is not that important to them. It's maybe seeing those friends. And if they don't want to always be fully engaged in the game, that is okay.
Yeah, and as long as it's not slowing the game down or bringing the energy down or anything, there's no problem. It's not ideal. You want people to be engaged, but if they're there and they're having fun and they want to keep playing, just, that's okay. And this is true for everybody, but especially true, I would say, for your partner. Be gentle and forgiving and ask them how you can make the game better or more engaging, which it sounds like what you've done.
It sounds like you've already asked and actually already got an answer. So honestly, my advice would be to not bring it up again. I think the status quo is actually not a problem. Let me give you can I give you an example, Rob?
Give me an example, Matt.
Okay, so this is not my partner, but one of my players, two of my players, right, we're partnered up, and one of them absolutely fell in love with the game we were playing and was super into their character. Another, not super into their character, but was best friends with most of the people at the game and absolutely would not miss a session. Now, did this person actually really want to play that much in the session? No. They wanted to draw while everyone else was playing, occasionally chime in, make a snack, hang out on their phone and be around everyone else, take breaks and go talk to someone else, go talk on the phone in another room. And that was perfect and fine because that was what they wanted out of the game.
Yeah.
I suggested, right, hey, if you want to be more involved, these are the ways you can. But obviously, you seem like you're having a great time. And yep, that's exactly the level of involvement they wanted. And it's perfect.
I've had players, not partners, but players who just wanted to hang out. They were happy to play and roll the dice, and they got into the role-playing and the rules. But mostly, they were just there to be with their friends. And that was fine. That was totally fine in the groups that they were in, and most of them tended to be more inconsistent or eventually drop out. But you know what? It worked totally fine. And it sounds like this is working fine for you, Logan, and I know you run the game and you're passionate about it and you want your partner to be more involved, but it's okay if this is what she wants to do.
This is a great letter, and I think Logan is writing this from a place of, at least from my perception of just reading this letter, of, hey, Dungeon Master of None told me it was part of my job to make sure everyone's having fun and being engaged. But you know what? The status quo is probably working just fine for everyone. Yeah. And this is perfect at what is happening right now, where one of your players, your fiance, is, only playing the game less than half the time and talking to someone else who is not playing the game. Perfectly fine. This is the way that she can hang out with her friends and be de-stressed and occasionally participate in the game. And not everyone's level of participation has to be at the same level.
Yeah. Look, we all know that the platonic ideal of an RPG is Critical Role, where you have, 5 to 6 people who are perfectly focused, there for 4 hours every week, fully engaged with their characters and the DM. But listen, your game and Critical Role, for example, is the difference between, neighborhood flag football league and the NFL. Okay, so just be forgiving with yourself and understand that it's not going to be perfect. And as long as everyone's having a good time, that's great.
Congratulations to both you and your fiance.
Yeah,
and
congrats
thanks for
on
writing in.
Being married soon, Logan.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for writing.
Here's our next letter. Hello. Could you help me with tips on leading a game for teens? I'm thinking about taverns and things like that. I don't know, for example, how I will handle alcohol for middle school games. It's going to be an after-school program. Thanks, Greg.
This is an interesting question, and not one that I had considered. So
let's get down for some teen chat.
Teen chat. So Matt and I are flipping our chairs around backwards.
Let's rap about D&D, kids.
we're sitting backwards in our chairs. So here's the thing. Frankly, and I know you might get in trouble for this. So
our letter writer's name is Greg, not Frank. Sorry, just got to correct that, minor.
So I understand if you can take this advice, but I think that middle schoolers are probably mature enough to handle pretending to drink alcohol. So if they want to order a beer in a tavern,
God,
you should let them.
No, all right. I'm going to step in here. I'm going to step in here. Listen,
disagrees with me.
I work at a school that has a combined high school and middle school. I'm going to stand in here and tell Rob that I have no problem telling Rob that he's completely wrong.
I'm wrong. I don't teach middle schoolers, so I'm going to defer to Matt.
You have completely forgotten who middle schoolers are, and I think you're right to be concerned about this. Listen, I run a game for high schoolers and a couple of middle schoolers. I've had a game with all high schoolers, a game with a mix of lower class high schoolers and middle schoolers. And you know what? There are taverns in my game, but you know what? They don't serve alcohol, right? And we've never had the conversation of like a student, because I rightly, I think, set the tone, right? As the dungeon master, where the student's not going to be like, can I buy a beer? And I think I had a student make a joke about like that. I'm like, oh, well, they don't have any of that here, right? Because, just don't let your middle schoolers get pretend drunk. That is weird and awkward for you and could get you into trouble with parents. Just, it's not here in this game world. We're focusing on something else. Oh, the tavern doesn't serve beer, but they have a delicious spicy roast owlbear flank. And they're like, oh, what's that? Or like, oh, the hills are infested with these creatures.
I'll defer to Matt. Matt's almost certainly correct. And the thing is, now that Matt has said it, this is just like anything else you're going to, like, I don't know.
However, I do want to say brutal violence, absolutely okay. Oh, right? Have your characters just beheading people, geysers of blood,
This is America. Beheadings, stabbings, gunshot wounds, whatever. That's all fine. No, but like, this is like anything else. When you're setting the tone, right? Like, I don't know, your world presumably includes prostitution and torture, but I don't include those in any of my games. Just because that happens, I'm like, we're not going to talk about that. This is not a thing that I'm going to approach in any like serious way, or I'll just sort of like hand wave it. So you can just be like, yeah, okay, fine. Maybe there's alcohol, but we're not going to talk about that, or that's not important, or that's not going to be a part of the game.
Right. Yeah, you don't have to include the sewage system of your city and how that functions. The fact that the legal system in your fantasy setting is completely corrupt. Right, there are hundreds and millions of things about the experience of your world that you do not have to forefront. Just leave out the alcohol and things will be fine. And then, also on the violence, right, you can, decide that, people get knocked out, right?
Yeah. Technically, within the rules, people get knocked out before they die. So you don't have to describe a gruesome death. You can just say, the bad guy goes down unconscious every single time. You knock, and then, which creates an interesting dynamic. The players can either, tie them up or leave them there, or, but they're not necessarily killing everybody every time they win a combat. So yeah,
listen, I think my general advice for teens is teens love funny things, and they love having a character, and they love talking to other characters, and they love having a special thing for their character, and they love solving mysteries that are not too difficult. Just a mysterious object in their path will provide them hours of entertainment, and yeah, you don't ever need to include anything above a PG-13 rating. And if you're really worried about it, you can put that at the beginning of your explanation of what this is. You're like, hey, we're setting up a movie, right? You guys have seen things in movies. Not everything in every movie is in this. So first off, there's no technology. No one has any cars. And second of all, it's a PG movie. There's no one cusses, right? Because that's part of our school policy as well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The thing is, if it's for a school, you can also always blame it on administration. You can say, oh, sorry, school policy says there can't be any mention of alcohol. Sorry, friends, and avoid having to be the bad guy, whether or not that's true. So, and Matt's almost certainly correct about this. You should listen to him. The only teens and preteens in my life are relatives, and I ignore them.
If you really want to up the level of adulthood in your game, have all your players start with crippling adult anxiety and crushing debt.
Yeah, make sure.
All right, you all have payments coming up at the end of the month. What do you do?
That's right. Dungeons and Dragons Student Loan Edition. How will you pay the interest on your overwhelming debt burden? Thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Greg. Good luck.
Our next one comes from Dr. Daig. Dr. Daig writes, "Hey Rob, you ever want to play League of Legends? Hit me up. My summer name is Bleep." Dr. Daig, thank you for the offer. I want to be real with everybody right here. League of Legends is a depression game for me. I play it when I am stressed out and sad. I lapse.
Which is a terrible idea, because, I'm not very good at the game, but it seems very stressful.
It makes my life much worse. I don't know why I do it. It is not a healthy game for me. However,
spiral. You like the spiral.
It makes things worse. I don't know. That's a thing you do when you're depressed. But I do play other games. I've been playing some Warzone. I do a lot of grand strategy. So if you follow us on Twitter, I think especially in the coming months, we'll let you know if we're going to be playing something and share our battle tags or whatever. More than happy to play with fans. So just follow us there and we'll let you know when that's happening. But probably will not be League of Legends because it is not a healthy habit for me. I was almost diamond like 4 years ago, and it was the worst time of my life. I just,
Yeah, but you were diamond though.
Yeah, I was diamond. I don't. Yeah, and listen, if you can play League of Legends, it's a very fun game. I like it a lot. I cannot develop a healthy relationship to that particular video game. So, just gonna be straight up with everybody about that.
Riot Games, which we all know is a very terrible corporation from basically any cursory reporting you've read on them, is actually, I think they opened a tabletop studio, and I freaked out for a second because I thought they were going to make a role-playing game, but they're making board games.
Of course they are.
I think so. I mean, I can't... I played League of Legends, like, from when it came out for at least 2 years, and I cannot tell you anything about the lore or backstory of the world because it doesn't matter.
They really dug down on it after those first 2 or 3 years, but it was, man, I don't know if anybody remembers this, but it was the wildest, most bootstrapped, made up, crappy art game in history, but it happened to ride the MOBA wave at exactly the right time and made bajillions of dollars. And so they went back and redesigned everything and made it look like a decent game. But boy, it was janky AF for the first year or 2 or 3.
I hope MOBAs are dying. I'm hoping that Heroes of the Storm dies, so you and some of our other friends stop playing it. So
and I don't
different game
play
that I
anymore.
like with me.
I'm sorry that you were bad at MOBAs.
I'm just really bad.
Matt's just not a good gamer, friends. He's just not a MOBA gamer.
Just 1v1 me right now, CS:GO. Let's make it happen.
Knives only, DE Dust 2, you and me, let's do it. Yeah.
Scouts and knives.
Scouts and knives.
A true game of skill.
Yeah.
Here is one of my favorite letters we've ever received. Hey guys, I've been listening to your podcast for 6 months now and get a lot out of it. I've been GMing on and off for 20 years, playing for 30, and still learn a lot from your discussions. Right now, I'm dungeon mastering an Eberron game and play in a Glorantha game.
I'm sorry, Matt, I'm not sure I know what Glorantha is.
Glorantha is like an old setting that I think was published by, one of the first things published by Chaosium, which was one of the other early RPG publishers along with TSR. And I think it was based off a board game that I've never played. It's very strange, but very, colorful, I think. I don't know. I've never played it. I'd love to learn more about Glorantha.
Yeah, okay. Interesting.
It's very old school.
Very old school. Yeah, I'm seeing it's very old school. Okay, anyways. Continue.
The Glorantha group is consistently experimenting with settings and systems, while the Eberron folks insist on only D&D. Finally, to my question. I'm looking for a fantasy system that lies between the high magic, superhero craziness of 5e and the awesome danger of the basic role-playing Green Delta system. Something in the neighborhood of 2D20 Conan, but not as complex. While system does not determine setting, it has a powerful influence. I want to capture the feeling of skilled protagonists who are in over their heads, who are heroes not because of raw power, but because of their guts and intelligence. Vulnerable without being mooks. I played a lot of systems, but I'm interested in your thoughts. Any suggestions? Thanks, I have a million discussions I'd like to have with you guys. Blaine,
thank you for writing.
Great letter, great question.
I regret to inform you that we are not going to be able to tell you what the perfect system is.
I mean, you've asked us, what is the perfect system?
But I can tell you, I sympathize with your struggle, and I can tell you, Matt and I have thought about this a lot, and we have experimented with a lot of different systems. So, I mean, to me, frankly, the perfect system is very close to Savage Worlds.
Savage Worlds.
I really love Savage Worlds, and I think that it captures the type of game that I want in a really, really good way. However, I don't play in Savage Worlds that much, and part of that has to do with limited resources, part of it has to do with limited customization. It's not quite there, but in terms of how well the underlying system works, it is far and away my favorite.
I would recommend Savage Worlds again just because of this one sentence in your letter, Blaine. Skilled protagonists who are in over their heads, who are heroes not because of raw power, but because of guts and intelligence. Yeah, I think that's an intro level Savage Worlds campaign to a T.
And the other thing is, this is what, and I'm not actually recommending it, but this is what I like about Shadowrun. Shadowrun is a nightmare system, but in terms of feel and balance, when it works correctly, your players feel like they are winning because they are prepared and they are smart and they are skilled, not because they're powerful, because everybody is one, sniper bullet away from being instantly dead, whether you're a dragon, corpse set guy. And if that's what you're looking for, it is a system that works. It's just such a broken system. It's just so, it's just so poorly designed, but in terms of feel and balance, that's in the right zone.
I think the problem is the only catch here is Savage Worlds works much better as a pulp action setting, though you're describing like pulp action, right? Mm-hmm. Guts and intelligence over raw power, but you're also asking for a fantasy system. And you can play Savage Worlds with fantasy, but I just don't think it works as well. I don't know. The magic system always seemed to me not super great.
Yeah, it's not great.
It's okay.
It's better in the most recent edition. I really liked the way the magic worked. The other thing though is that Matt and I haven't played every system. In fact, there's a lot that we haven't played, and some of them are quite good. I mean, they all suffer from the same. Every role-playing game suffers from the same, set of problems. And it's like
to take Blaine's question in the worst possible way. Does the perfect system exist? And the answer is always no.
Always no. You have to choose, right? You can, there's like a triangle that's like complexity, satisfaction,
cheap.
Depth of cheap. How hard? Depth of play. Anyway, it's you can pick two of the three. You can never have like a perfect system, right? And I mean, I really do think that maybe someday someone will design something that will usurp D&D, because as much as we love D&D, it has deep, glaring, fundamental, insurmountable flaws, and always has. Other creators that are not us often say play another system, because a lot of people try to shoehorn D&D into games where it doesn't work.
I would say try Savage Worlds. You're taking the right approach, right, to try other things, right?
I would try Savage Worlds, especially with the new the Adventure edition is only a few months old. It's new. It's definitely the best it's ever been. There's a lot of resources around it. I would give that a shot, especially, again, Matt's right. Guts and intelligence suggests to me that Savage Worlds is what you're looking for.
I know one of the guys who's working on the new Exploring Eberron book that is coming out soon. That is a third-party offering on the DM's Guild by Keith Baker. But one of the other people working on has a long-running Eberron campaign that is in Savage Worlds, just because they like the system better. So I've also played an Eberron campaign that didn't last very long, but it worked great in Savage Worlds.
Blaine, I hope that's helpful. And if anyone else has a suggestion about this, or, I know we've talked about this on the podcast before, but if you have something that you think we should try that is accessible.
You got a lot of time for playing one-shots with people.
And I'd love
What new system should we try?
I'd love to poke around a new system or two.
If you had this is good. So I think if I have to pick one right now, I'm leaning towards trying the Cypher system, which is the system for Numenera, which I've played but not run.
I've been meaning to try that.
Maybe
for
that
a
will
long
be mine,
time. Yeah.
Unless listeners can persuade me to try a different system.
Adam Coble has been stumping for Ironsworn for a long time, and I think that's the one that I want to try next.
I also want to try Zweihandler.
Ooh, Zweihandler is another one, yeah. But
yeah,
I definitely want to try Cypher. I haven't played, I've only poked around in the rules. I haven't run a Numenera game. Anyway, so if you have thoughts on this, definitely let us know. But Blaine, I hope that's helpful.
Well, we answered a lot of letters. Send us some more and tell us what new system that we haven't talked about here that we should play. We got time.
Yeah, chances are decent we'll be doing some more of these bonus mailbags to get us all through the dark times ahead. So definitely send us letters. Thanks everyone for writing. I hope this was helpful. Again, letters go to dmofnone@gmail.com. Add us on Twitter @dmofnone. We'll be here all quarantine. Yeah.
Or you can always give us a call at the Dungeon Master Hotline, 774-203-4629.
So yeah, thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. Stay tough out there. Don't go outside. And keep rolling the dice.